The President's new retirement savings plan is called MyRA, and it's outlined a little bit in his State of the Union address that we heard earlier this week, and he re-emphasized this on the road.
I will direct the Treasury to create a new way for working Americans to start their own retirement savings. And we're calling it MyRA, not IRA, MyRA. And what it is it's a new type of savings bond that we can set up without legislation that encourages Americans to begin to build a nest egg. And it's simple.
So what are the details of this? And does the president really have the authority to put this plan into action without the legislation, like he just said in his speech there? Steve Moore is chief economist at the Heritage Foundation and a Fox News contributor. So, Steve, let's just start with the first question of what exactly is this? What would this provide to Americans that is not already out there for us to use and to save?
Well, Jenna, so far there's more questions than answers as all of us try to figure out exactly how this new savings vehicle would work. Let me just start by saying I agree with the president that it would be a good thing to give lower-income Americans and middle-class Americans more vehicles to save without being double taxed on those savings through an IRA type of vehicle. So I think the concept makes a lot of sense. There are various problems that we're finding with it. First of all, if you have an income over $190,000, you wouldn't be eligible for this. So people with incomes below $190,000. The other thing, Jenna, is that you would have to actually put your money into a bond fund, a government bond fund. And as you know, bonds are only returning about 2% right now. So you're not going to get a real high return on that. Of course, the other big question is, does the president have the the authority to do this unilaterally?
And does he, Steve?
That question still isn't answered. As I look at the facts and I look at how this program would work, Jenna, I'm not so sure he does, because I think this would require a change in tax laws. If you're going to make people eligible for a new IRA that is not taxed, it looks to me like you have to get legislation, Jenna, from Congress to change the tax laws to allow this to happen.
I'd be curious, Steve, would you be for that? Because we've talked a little bit about tax reform, and this would just be minor, right? But would you be for a change in the tax code so this would be available?
Yeah, look, I believe that any time you save money, you shouldn't be taxed on it twice. Right now, Jenny, you're taxed on the money when you earn it, and then the buildup if you earn interest on a savings account, you also have to pay tax on that. So I agree with the president on this. In fact, I would expand it. I would allow lower and middle income people to take some of their payroll tax dollars and put that into a savings account. So that would make a lot of sense. Look, America is a society where we have instant gratification, we spend too much, and we save too little. These kinds of tax incentives, I think, would help. So I think the president's on the right course. I would not require people only to invest in bond funds, because you wouldn't accumulate that much money in the account.
So that comes to a bigger question, because one of the leaders of this idea, apparently in the Treasury Department, described it as training wheels to kind of get people used to saving. I guess the question that's even a bigger, more philosophical question is whether or not the government is the right mode for that, whether or not the government should change. Uncle Sam is the one that should change our behavior, or whether or not it has to come from a different source so that we actually do become a nation of savers.
Well, we have to change our whole culture and how we look at spending and saving, no question, Jenna. But it is true that the tax system really discourages people from saving. But let's not forget, by the way, this is the same president who a year or two ago, remember that secret initiative he had? He wanted to tax the buildup in IRAs. So it looks like this could be a bait and switch, where you ask people to put money into these accounts and you tell them you're not going to tax the accounts, and then a later Congress could come along and tax it again.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And a question about income levels as well. Who has the accessibility to it and who does not, and how do you draw the line there? So, interesting question. Steve, do you have a piggy bank at home? I mean, how do you save? Do you do that?
Well, you know, with 2% interest on bonds, you're almost better off putting the money into a piggy bank. Let people put money in stocks. You know, the president talks about income inequality and only rich people making money on the stock market. Let some of these people put money in stocks. They might get 6, 7, 8% rate of return.
A lot of people do that through their 401ks, and 401ks are not available to everybody, right, in the country. So maybe that's one of the reasons behind this. Steve, great to see you as always. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen. See you soon.